Just a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit Washington, D.C. Now, I had been to the area several times over the past few years, but this year I was finally able to visit a memorial that I had been wanting to see for many, many years. See, my grandfather, Clarence Taylor, was the sheriff of a small county in eastern Kentucky. On March 27, 1954, he was shot and killed in the line of duty. His name is on the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. I had been wanting to visit this memorial. I just never had the opportunity. This year, I finally made it, and I was honored and saddened to see his name among so many fallen officers. Across the street from the memorial is the National Law Enforcement Officers Museum, so I decided I would go in there and check it out since I was in the area. As I walked through the museum, a 1963 Harley-Davidson Panhead caught my attention. I walked over to the exhibit to see why this motorcycle was on display in a law enforcement museum. As it turns out, this particular motorcycle was used by an ATF agent named Blake Bottler. Agent Bottler used this motorcycle along with a new identity to infiltrate the Sons of Silence. He spent 2 years undercover from 1997 to 1999, and he had to find a delicate balance between his life as an agent, as a husband, as a father, and the life of an outlaw biker. According to one of the plaques in the exhibit, it reads that it meant always having a reason for not participating in certain criminal activity and remembering it. He was living a double life. On the one hand, he was a devoted and upstanding federal agent. On the other hand, he had to pretend to be someone he wasn't so that he could be accepted by the members of the Sons of Silence, going against everything he upheld with respect to maintaining law and order. Now, the story of his life, pretending to be someone he was not, struck me as being so similar to what many professing Christians do in their daily lives. Now, I myself was guilty of this at one time as well. I professed to be a Christian, but I was conforming to the dynamics of different friend groups, telling myself that I was winning them over so that I could win them for Christ. You can imagine how that turned out. I did not lead anyone to Christ, but I instead let the world transform me. If I had friends who were drinking regularly, then I would drink with them. I would rationalize my behavior. If friends were using inappropriate language, I was right there with them. I look back on those times with shame because I realized that my faith was far from genuine. Maybe some of you know a professing Christian who conforms to the group of people that they happen to be around. Or maybe you yourself are guilty of this rationalization, telling yourself that if you can just win them over, then you can lead them to Christ. Well, guess what? That is not how this works. And James talks about this in his 2nd chapter of his letter. So also, faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. We can profess an undying faith in Christ, but unless our lives are demonstrative of that faith, then our faith itself is dead. Our faith should be transformative and regenerative. Jesus tells us that our faith should be visible to others. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. We see the need to be doers of the word as opposed to simply proclaimers of our faith in the following words of Christ, recorded a little bit later in Matthew chapter 7. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. What Jesus is saying is that it is not the sayers that will enter the kingdom, but those that are doers. James goes on in the 2nd chapter to illustrate that belief itself is not enough. He tells us this: you believe that God is one, you do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. You see, the demons know that there is a God. Even demons know that Jesus is who he said he is, and he is the Son of God sent by the Father to save all those who believe in him. The difference between demons and true Christians is not knowledge. The difference is that Christians faithfully submit to the Lordship of Christ and become his followers. We become followers of Christ when our lives are transformed, when we become a new creation. It is through the demonstration of our faith that we will show others the strength of glory in Christ, not by allowing ourselves to be influenced by a lifestyle that is contrary to our obedience and faith in Christ. Now, I know we should all know these words from the Apostle Paul. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. If our faith is genuine, we will not be conformed to the world around us. We ourselves will be transformed by grace through faith in Christ, and our light will shine to others so that they may desire to become more like us, rather than us making a compromise and being someone we are not, under the guise of leading them to Christ.